So, could you tell me about where you are from and why you're here?
So I'm traveling from St. Louis. I'm a professor at St. Louis University. I'm a demographer that studies immigration and Latino demographic transitions throughout the United States. I'm here to interact with other people who are also interested in sharing research, projects that they're doing throughout the United States, mostly focused in the Midwest, on trying to improve the human condition of the Latino communities.
Cool. And how many years have you been coming?
So I've been coming for about 9 years now.
Cool. And so, what are the things you look forward to year after year?
I look forward to reconnecting with people that I met when I first came to my first conference, and then just engaging with new people who are joining universities or joining other activities where they're trying to interact with the Latino community and trying to get a sense and learn from them how their work can inform my work.
Sure. So, it's an interesting year, as you can tell in the title for the conference refers to turbulent times.
Sure.
And one of the questions they were wanting to ask me is sort of how this new gosh, I'm forgetting the word, how these new sort of emerging problems are affecting you in your own work, and if we're seeing those issues represented in the conference this year.
I don't think they necessarily impact my work per se. So because I'm a demographer, it has potentially in the future could impact my work. I think on an anecdotal level, when I go out and share my work with the community, I do get a sense that people have a sense of not necessarily fear, but just uncertainty about what their life is going to be like, especially for friends who are undocumented. And so there's that sense where if I was more of a qualitative researcher, I think that would impact my work. But it is possible that when we do start to do the 2020 census, and if that question on citizenship status is there, it could impact not just my work, but every work of a demographer, of trying to get a more accurate understanding of what's happening in cities, neighborhoods, which has huge implications in terms of federal funding, because that's the data set that's going to be used to allocate funding for the next 10 years. So if there's an undercount, it has huge implications. I know people have talked about Texas, California being impacted, but there are other states that could be impacted. Georgia's one state that could be impacted if there's an undercount. And for Georgia, it's probably even more severe, because Georgia could lose, they're projected to get a House seat based on the population growth. If there's an undercount, they could lose that House seat. And a state like Pennsylvania or Wisconsin could keep it. So those are real implications in terms of what that question could mean for those states.
Sure. Wow, that's interesting. I wanted to sort of transition to more talking about the conference this year.
Sure.
Were you here the past 2 days?
Yes.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your so one of the questions that Victoria was going to ask is there a highlight of this year's conference?
I think the highlight for me, there were probably two highlights I would mention. The first was on the plenary session yesterday afternoon, where the speaker was talking about fear and immigration, and I think he had some pretty good advice in terms of how you negotiate with the other side of the political spectrum that's very anti-immigration. So I think that was a good point, because I think oftentimes we're not as critical of ourselves, and we think we're doing a good job. We think we're doing everything we can do, but we're not really reflecting what the other side's doing. And so oftentimes we're not doing enough. And so I think that was a very important point. I think for me also, I actually came to give a paper, but then they asked me to do a workshop. And so I think through that experience, I just realized there's such a demand for people who want to learn how to work with data that's related to Latino populations. because there's so much information out there today. It's a completely different environment than it was a decade ago. And the tools and technology that we have today, we're able to do extremely insightful analysis now that we just simply could not do 20 years ago. And so I think through that workshop, I think it's informed me that there's an opportunity here to really share these methods and the data with the larger community of researchers.
Cool. That's awesome. That's probably good to know.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good a little. Okay. And have you been attending the breakout sessions?
I have,
Okay.
yes.
Have you had a favorite breakout session?
I think that one of the breakout sessions I attended was on exclusion and inclusion by Deborah Bolton. And that was an interesting one because she was using her university as a framework to talk about what does it mean in terms of equity, what does it mean in terms of inclusion, what does it mean in terms of, and so people were able to, I think, have a frank discussion of what's happening in other parts of the universities that we were coming from.
Cool.
So that was good to have that engagement.
Yeah. Okay, and to ask you one last question here, this is the one I usually always finish with, is do you have any other comments about the conference in general that you'd like to share before we
I enjoy the conference. I look forward to it. It's a different type of conference because it's a combination of academics like myself, people who are in the land grant part of universities that are actually trying to apply the research, and then you have community organizations, nonprofit groups who are coming here and sharing their experiences. And so I think it's a good mix for everybody. And I enjoy it, so I can see myself continuing to come to the Cambio de Colores conference, and it's close to St. Louis, so it's not a huge burden to travel for me.